Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting in Carroll Local School District at the Intermediate Gymnasium for March 8th, 2021. Mr. Bingham, roll call.
Rabbit.
Present.
Mr. Bratton.
Present.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Present.
Mr. Rod Johnson.
Present.
Mrs. Sherman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, approval of the agenda. We have one addition on page 3. It's technically 9C, 10. We're going to add a 10B, Josh Roach, JV softball.
What is it? 10B.
10, we're going to add a B to that.
JV softball.
Josh Roach, JV softball. Anybody see anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Jimmy Johnson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott.
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman.
Yes.
Mr. Bratton.
Yes. Item 5, approve the minutes from the following meetings: February 8th, 2021 regular meeting, and February 24th, 2021.
Same thing.
I will make this motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Bratton, seconded by Mr. Rod Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Bratton.
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson.
Yes. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I thought they were separately. I'm sorry.
Mr. Abbott.
Abstain?
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
And Mrs. Sherman.
Yes.
Item 6, public participation.
Sorry.
Intermediate school update. You don't have to
I think this is the last one in the building, isn't
say.
it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is the last one.
Is that?
I am.
Well,
I mean, it's bittersweet because this is my first job here as a principal in this building, but I love that we'll be in a brand new building, we'll be closer to everyone, so everyone will know the island secrets.
And we're gonna host more board meetings there.
Oh, even better, huh?
So you have to be more meetings.
Hey, listen, that's all right. It forces him to dress up, so we're good. All right, I'm just gonna give you a couple brief updates. Before I get started, I want to thank you guys. You've had to make a lot of challenging decisions, but I appreciate you put the children first. And myself, I don't like being an online principal. I hated it in the spring, and I love that we're here, and I think our kids are thriving because they're here regularly and consistently, so thank you. I'm going to talk about reading. This year we implemented Alexia, which is an online reading intervention program. All students in K-4 have access to it. In the past, we've had computer programs for reading where we've only put the at-risk kids on, but Lexia allows us to assign all the kids a seat on it, and they kind of work at their own pace. And the teachers get them on between 2 and 4 times a week, and it's really self-paced, and they get little certificates when they graduate a level and all that, but just seeing the kids' enthusiasm for it, and generally, I mean, I've heard one kid is just like, I don't like it, but 99% of the kids, they enjoy it, and we are seeing the gains. And that especially in the phonics area, which has always been an area that we've really tried to address as well. And we spent the previous year kind of working with Canal Winchester, visiting them because they use Lexia. So it's really kind of neat to see how it's rolled out this year. So I'm excited as we move forward with it as well. AR, we're still doing our accelerated reader. We made a couple changes to it this year. We're allowing kids to take the quizzes at home because we have some VLA families that want to participate in the AR. So we've allowed like the quizzes to be open during the week, and I have 5 kids already that have read over 1 million words. In fact, I have a 3rd grader who's read over 3 million. He's going between 4 and 5 million words by the end of the year. So, I mean, it's so nice to see that excitement and enthusiasm. And because of, my building funds, I've been able to give the kids at least 6 free books during the school year. And I have about 2 or 3 more times where they'll all get a book just to take. I put them on the table and they can come pick up a book. So we're really trying to keep books in their hands. And I know in the library, she circulates between 14 and 1,600 books a month with just 2 grade levels. So I think that's pretty outstanding that we're really trying to keep our kids reading. Ms. Craner continues to work with our Title I, especially with our 3rd graders. She does do some flexible groupings, like we have some kids that are really making the gains, and we have some other kids that come in based on data from like Lexia or our AR piece. We will move them in and out as well. And then our 2 intervention specialists are using the Wilson Reading Program, which teaches those fine skills for those kids that need those Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions as well. One thing we did for the month of February, which was kind of challenged with snow days and other things, but we had our classrooms kind of focus on our Black History Month, as well as kind of talking about different countries. And each classroom created a display either in the hallway or on their door, and just to kind of learn about the foods, customs, and we allowed all the classrooms to go around and kind of tour the different bulletin boards and all that. Some of the classrooms made little pamphlets where the kids fill out with information as well. And we know as years go on, we want to kind of expand it, and we're really trying to incorporate literature from very diverse authors as well, trying to incorporate some more, literature and those kind of things for our kids as well. And then on April 30th, we're going to have a poetry cafe here in our gym. Kristen Harlander is going to organize it where each classroom will come down here. They can bring a poem to share, or they can write one while they're here, then share it with their peers. Or we're going to kind of run that for the entire day, and we'll have some little snacks for them and all that, but just kind of something fun to just do some things different. And I think this year it's allowed us to try some different things that we haven't maybe done in the past. Any questions? All right.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Item number 7, treasurer recommendation and reports. Mr. Reed.
Okay, item 7A is approve the February financial statements for a total expense of $13,259,173.14, including just over $9 million in SCOIC expenses. Page 14, you will have the on the electronic copy the summary for February. As I mentioned in the January meeting, or maybe it was the planning or the February meeting, I should say. The recoupment of the additional state funding, again, it wasn't a full 100% recoupment. It was a portion that Governor DeWine signed back into law. That was received in February. Again, not all of it, but that accounts for a little over $144,000 on the green report that obviously we were not anticipating with the original forecast. Also, which is nice, in February and March, we collect the second half of the fiscal year, first half of the calendar year, real estate and public utility tax collections. So that's a really good thing cash flow wise for the district, and that accounts for the larger carryover that you'll see in February and March. Purchase services line item, again, with most of the, again, going back to that green report, we are under budget in most of these line items. However, part of that with the purchase services is timing. Superintendents and treasurers recently had a meeting with the ESC and other districts in the county that the ESC services, and we came to a consensus on how we wanted to bill some of the classroom costs that we had kind of talked about. So now that we have that, you're going to see some higher purchase services as prior years just due to the timing. So you see the current carryover there again. Again, it'll increase through March and then kind of decrease through until we get to June. But any questions on the financial statements or the checks written during the month?
No?
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Rod Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
And Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Item B, approve the certificate of records disposal as recommended by the Records Commission. Page 28 in the electronic copy. The Records Commission, which consists of the treasurer, superintendent, and board president, met prior to this meeting. This is a new requirement. It used to be that the Records Commission could approve the destruction of records in accordance with the district's retention policy, and that was it. Now the Auditor of State requires the full board to vote on it. So again, this is just complying with that requirement, but this is what the Records Commission as recommended, and again, in strict compliance with our retention schedule.
Any questions? I will make this motion. Can I get a second? Motion made by Mr. Bratton, seconded by Mr. Jimmy Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman? Okay, item C, I'd like to recommend approving the stadium lighting replacement project with Musco. Has competitively bid through the Sourcewell purchasing contract number 071619-MSL at a total cost of what we are recommending with the quote that was sent over the weekend, I believe, of $314,000 to be financed through bond issue proceeds. Obviously, we've talked about this for a couple of months, gotten several quotes. It's already been competitively bid through the purchasing co-op. And certainly, Mr. Hahn, jump in here as you feel that. But Mr. Little, Mr. Hahn, and I have met with the contractors, and the only difference from the planning session when we discussed this was changing the location. Again, if the board would like to follow this recommendation, changing the location of the home side poles to a more, what we think is a more conducive space behind the bleachers. If you kind of can think about where they are right now, especially with the precast concrete, it's going to be pretty big there in that high traffic area to the right of the home side bleachers as you're looking at the field. And we just felt like we have the money now with the bond issue. Again, it's not any tax proceeds, it's strictly the interest earned off of the bond issue. And we think this will be a long-term fix for the stadium. It does require going to 90-foot poles. That's the requirement to move them back a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it would still be 80 feet on the visitor side.
On the visitor side, they'd be at the same location in 80
So certainly we can discuss more if the board has reservations about this, but I just think that, to do it right once, to have the warranty, this is for us, a lifetime fix. We just feel like this is the right time and the right option to go with the stadium lighting.
I think keep in mind that, as we talked to some of our planning sessions, that this is bond interest money. The last time lights were put in was in 1982. Every summer, we bring in a lift, we pay for a lift, thousands of dollars, we pay for light bulbs that are hundreds of dollars, we replace them, we come back a week later, we turn them on again, and a bulb or two are burnt out, or a ballast is bad, and the ballasts are at the top. We have to get another lift that we paid for to come in. Those lights are 39 years old. These lights are LED, they're energy efficient. The lights are now used basically in the fall almost every night of the week. In 1982, the lights were used on Friday nights because we had a green practice area where the middle school is, where practice could occur after school, and that's no longer there. So our turf fields are used, and the lights are on quite a bit throughout from August all the way into November, and it's expensive to run those, to maintain them, and I don't think we'll have another opportunity in the foreseeable near future to take advantage of this and replace these lights. These lights and all the labor and the poles and the foundations have a 25-year material and on-site labor warranty. Musco Lighting is an American company out of Iowa. They manufacture their lights and poles and equipment. So if we have a problem, we go to them and they come in and fix it for 25 years. I won't be here in 25 years. And it would be nice to, Travis and myself and Chad Little or whoever the athletic director is, to be able to say to the next people, here you go, here's the information. If you have any problems with these lights, it's covered under warranty. And I think that's huge, that to have a 25-year warranty and the energy efficiency and the fact that it's needed. If you've been out there on a Friday night, it's kind of dingy and dim, and most places have transitioned to LED lights. And this will be a huge step up, and I think the district has managed things well over the years and made some investments into the turf, the boosters, to the concession project. We've done, the district chipped in a little bit on that. We did the entrance to the stadium. We put in a new track. We have the turf to have the lights. I think let's understand how many students are out there and how many families use that facility for their children and for the community. So I just think now's the time to do it. And I think, Travis and the district have managed the construction project very well. And because of that, we have this interest money to make this investment back into our community. So it's my opinion, but we felt if we're going to do it, let's move those poles back a few more feet so people can actually see and not walk down the steps and walk into a pole, because that's literally where it will have to be if we keep them in the current location. So
I think part of the reason we're doing this now, right, is to make sure it gets done ready for next year.
yeah, it's 6 to 8 weeks for ordering and processing and getting these on site. So we're looking at, we've got to get it done, and if we're going to do it, we've got to get it done in June. And we still have summer camps we're going to have to coordinate around this, but June and half of July, and then from that point on, band and all the athletic teams are out there all fall. So
I think you made a good point as far as the energy efficiency. At some point, I mean, it comes into play, especially that we use 6 nights a week, 5 nights a week versus the old ones. I mean, it's so inefficient.
yeah, and then I think we've talked about is the COVID situation improves, opening up our facilities to outside groups that can rent or lease of the field use, and that money goes back to, those funds to maintain those facilities. So, I think, again, I just feel like it's the right time, and I don't think any school board here in the next 5 years or so, or 10 years, will have the ability to do this. And I think it's our recommendation to
Mr. Hahn, real quick, I don't know if you guys have talked to them. Obviously, the appealing thing here is a 25-year warranty on that. Have they discussed how often those bulbs need replaced at all?
They last, tens of thousands of hours.
50,000 hours is a typical LED.
Yeah, it will be years. It'll be years. But if there's something wrong with the light, they can be with this one. We don't have to send anybody up.
Yeah.
All the Mr. Abbott, you can help me, but all the boxes are about 10 feet off the ground, not up at the top where the lights are. So they can work on the
Drivers.
The drivers.
Yeah.
the drive.
So they're not lamps or light bulbs. They're actually, the components are low. They're actual boards up high. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the return on investment, every year, with maintenance, right? I don't know what you're spending, but I'd say close to $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
15 years
Yeah.
plus the return on our investment, they're paying for it.
Every summer, we spend thousands of dollars, $4,000 or $5,000 to have those bulbs and have a lift brought in. And I'm not kidding you, it's so frustrating when the first home game, we want things to look sharp. We turn it on, and we're like, we got 2 lights out, they were fine a week ago, So that's kind of where we are, but.
Now, moving behind the bleachers, it won't affect if they add on to press box.
No, because we know that's in the foreseeable future too. So it'll be spaced apart about 15 yard lines, 15, 20 yard lines, but back just behind the bleachers.
Any other questions? So we need to write in 314,000. Can I get a motion to approve the statement?
So moved.
Is that Mr. Rod Johnson made the motion? Seconded by Mrs. Sherman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
And finally, we'd like to recognize the following donations to the Bloom Carroll Local School District from Meyer and Canal Winchester. A little over $258 in value for much-needed face masks for Bloom Carroll High School. Thank you to them.
Okay, that's cool. I will make this motion.
I will second.
Motion made by Mr. Bratton, seconded by Mr. Abbott. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bigham. Item 8 is old business. We've got one item there, A, approve the 2021-2022 school calendar packet. And I think it's an update.
This is what we looked at a while ago.
It was, we have to wait you have to post it for a month. It's been on our website. It's on page 36 in this month's packet. real quick, we need more work days, especially with our elementary staff as we transition into the new building. We will break up grades 1 through 5. Kindergarten's always had a staggered start, but we're going to do that again for kindergarten and this year for first grade through fifth grade. The high school and middle school will start on the first day, which will be August 26th, and then get going right away. But there is a staggered start for grades 1 through 5, just to go through an orientation of the new building, the lunches, the restrooms, the recesses, the playgrounds, the navigation of the building. So we just hope this will be more conducive to a clean start, where the teachers don't feel overwhelmed and the students don't either. We benefited from the hybrid start in August due to the pandemic, and although we're not doing this for 2 to 3 weeks, we do feel one day of it is beneficial, and the staff supported it, and they were certainly in favor of it as well. So.
Any questions on the calendar?
Great.
Can I get a motion?
Send it.
Motion made by Mrs. Sherman,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes. Item 9, superintendent recommendations and reports.
Okay. I feel like, I don't have too much. I've been keeping you guys updated weekly, and then we've had some planning sessions and board meetings recently that you guys have had quite a bit of information shared with you. But we do have the end of the grading period coming up, and obviously it's hard to believe we transition to the 4th grading period. We've got a lot of work to do, and I think we'll certainly maximize the instructional time that we do have over the next 9 or 10 weeks. Just wanted to congratulate all of our winter athletes and their families and our coaches. Obviously, it was very challenging. We had quarantines from time to time due to being exposed to another team or maybe one of our own. A lot of safety procedures to follow. That was very difficult. We're continuing those with spring sports, but I just wanted to recognize our winter athletes and congratulate them. And obviously thank the board for the opportunities. It's been difficult to take some of the positions that we have, but we have kept our students at the forefront, and our students and you think about our seniors that are graduating this year, they need those opportunities, and so do all kids, and whether it's band or choir or athletics, we've been able to offer those, so congratulations to them. Just to let you know, we were planning to proceed with graduation in some form. I'm not saying it'll be a 100% traditional ceremony. Governor DeWine still has restrictions on indoor capacity and outdoor capacity. We're looking at maybe an outdoor one this year, where we have 30% at this time of stadium capacity, or we might do indoor. Right now it's 25%, but those percentages could increase as things get better over the next couple months. But we will plan on having some type of ceremony, more so than even last year. Last year we did a drive up real quick. This will be more capping down, everybody in class sitting together, spread out, and let's hope that things continue to improve. We are also moving forward with, had some questions about art shows under certain safety protocols, limiting capacity, how many people are in a building at a time in the cafeteria, and the flow of traffic, and the spacing, and that masks are worn. We're looking at continuing to, we've got a lot of students working hard on art shows or art projects. So we're going to try to do something like that in May. We are going to try to have a spring music concert in the gymnasium at the middle school, spread out with safety protocols, and family or immediate household members allowed to attend. COVID cases right now, we're in really good shape. We had 3. I think we're down to 1 right now if I look at my records, but gone a few days. Once again, without sending notices out or being notified of any cases. Things in the county and across central Ohio are dramatically improving as people are getting vaccinated, and the virus is just subsiding. And then moving plans were finalized. We're starting to set up some staff meetings in late April, early May, come out with the mover, go over the protocols. Mr. Rozeski, Ms. Pease, myself, Travis, Dennis Thompson, met with the moving company to finalize June 14th through the 18th. In mid-May, we'll be receiving boxes, Tiger boxes and speed packs for our K-5 teachers. And we'll start that packing process and have it ready for pickup on June 14th. So that's all I really have. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. All right, let's move on to 9B, students and programs. Number 1, approve the end of course exam schedule for the high school on April 19th through the 23rd, 2021, and April 26th through the 29th, 2021 for makeup dates. There's some legislation that may impact this at the State House right now. It may extend the testing window a little bit. We'll wait and see what happens, but we need to go ahead and get our testing schedule approved. And if we'll make any changes, we'll certainly amend that. So, that's what we're doing.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Sherman, I will second. Roll call.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, 9C, personnel and employment, approved substitute list number 8 for the 2021 as submitted by the Carroll County ESC. Number 2, approved voluntary transfer of Abby Dybel from 5th grade teacher to middle school teacher effective with 2021-22 school year, and that's to fill the vacancy created by the retirement and resignation of Carol Black. Number 3, approve the employment of Michaela Wagner as treasurer assistant and accounts payable at 25 hours per week on a 1-year limited contract at step 0 effective March 23rd, 2021, and that is to fill the vacancy created by the voluntary transfer of Cheryl Hale. Number 4, approve the following personnel to provide kindergarten screenings on June 1st through 3rd at the tutor hourly rate as presented A through J. Go on to the next page. Number 5, approve the following classified substitutes for 2020-21 school year pending receipt of background checks and required licensure as presented A through D. Number 6, approve the following requests for unpaid leave and dock days, and that would be 1 day for Carol Black on April 23rd, 2021. Number 7, approve the following request for FMLA leave of absence for Jessica Storts beginning February 8th for up to 60 days. And number 8, approve Casey Tyler as a long-term substitute for Jessica Storts at the middle school effective February 8th, 2021 through approximately March 15th, 2021. Number 9, approve the following spring athletic supplemental contracts for the 2021 school year pending receipt of verifications and background checks, and contingent that payment shall be made provided that the board is permitted to and holds pupil activity in light of illness, COVID-19, and the Ohio High School Athletic Association and state and local precautions, orders, and guidance. Partial performance and duties shall be paid on a prorated basis following verification to the treasurer from the principal or athletic director of the portion of duties completed by the supplemental contract holders. That would be Kaylee Springer, JV softball at 80%, Mark Redfern 10%, and Haley Starr, JV softball 10%. Number 10, approve the following athletic department volunteers for the 2021 school year pending timely receipt of all verifications and background checks. That would be A, Adam Sherrow, middle school softball, and Josh Roach, which we're reading in for JV softball volunteers.
Mr. Hahn, any questions? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Sherman, second by Mr. Abbott. Roll call.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Okay, the contracts and agreements, approve an alcohol and substance abuse program agreement with Carroll Medical Center. Number 2, approve a master service agreement with Meta Solutions for fiscal services, EMA support, info, Ohio Library Services, and progress book services effective July 1st through June 30th, 2022. These are not new agreements, they're annual agreements. One is our drug testing of high school athletes, grades 9 through 12, with Carroll Medical Center. And the second one is basically our student information system, management system with parent contacts, schedules, medical information, special education services, and IEPs. That's done through special services, which Meta Solutions provides all those technical services to us. So that's what those agreements are about.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rod Johnson, seconded by Mr. Jimmy Johnson. Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Nothing under other, and moving on to 9F, personnel resignations and retirement. Accept the resignation of John Jeffers, high school health and physical education teacher, effective May 28, 2021. He spent a lot of years with us. He's 30, I think 34 years. And he had retired a few years ago, came back for a couple of years, but just a good guy, just a great person, and he's purple and gold through and through, and we'll miss him. He's just a wonderful person, and we thank him for his service. And
I'll make that motion. I will second. Motion made by Mr. Gill, seconded by Mr. Bratton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Item 10 is new business. We've got A, approve a resolution to administer the third grade math and ELA state assessments and third grade ELA and math alternative assessments for students with cognitive disabilities for all students in paper pencil format for the 2021-2022 school year, unless a student's IEP or 504 plan specifies otherwise. And B, approve a resolution naming a future press box replacement in memory in honor of Marlo Mills, contingent upon available funds to be donated by the Carroll Athletic Association.
Awesome.
Yep, good deal.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Motion made by Mrs. Sherman, seconded by Mr. Rod Johnson. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes. Item number 11, board reports and information, facility management. Mr. Evans, Mr. Rod Johnson.
Nothing further?
No, I mean, you guys are getting the updates now, I think, pretty much weekly from Mr. Hahn in regards to the new building. So, hey, Sean, I did have one real quick question, or Mr. Hahn, I should say. We moved our next meeting, I think, on the calendar to the 19th, is that correct? Or not, or is it the 20th?
I believe so. Let me take a look here. The 19th. Yes, our next meeting's at 9 a.m. on the 19th.
Okay, just want to verify that.
To personnel and labor management, just had a meeting, good conversation. I think we, as you guys probably are aware, June 30th, our union contract expires for teachers, so I think we could engage the end of March, so we started some of those discussions. So that'll happen throughout the next few months. OSBA reps, Mr. Rod Johnson, Mr. Sherman.
Nothing at this time. I mean, it's still pretty much all virtual, so any training you guys want to do, just look out on the, be on the lookout for the emails.
Policy, Mr. Abbott, Mrs. Sherman.
Meeting tomorrow
Wow.
morning?
Yeah, we 11:30 tomorrow.
Safety, health, and wellness, Mr. Abbott, Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Nothing further?
We should have a meeting, I think, in May coming up. I'll let you guys know the date.
Okay. Finance, Mr. Johnson.
Nothing at this time.
Item B, upcoming PTO Booster Board Education meeting. March 9th, middle school PTO at 2:30 in the middle school library. The 9th of March as well, BC Elementary PTO at 6:30. The location there.
At Shirky's.
It's at Shirky's.
Yes.
Thank you. BC Elementary PTO at Shirky's, 6:30 p.m. We've got March 17th, high school PTO at 7 p.m. in the high school cafeteria. We have a planning session March 24th at 6 p.m. middle school library. April 1st through the 2nd, spring break. We've got a comp day on the 5th of April, no school. And then our next regular Board of Education meeting is on April 12th at 6 p.m. in the BC Middle School Library. Last but not least, April athletic boosters at 7 p.m. in the middle school cafeteria. Item 12, adjourn recess. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mrs. Sherman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Rod Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Bratton?
Oh, sorry, yes.